Top 10 Best French Fighter Jets. The history of the French Air Force post-World War II can be seen in the history of Dassault fighter jets. Dassault was founded as the Société d'Avions Marcel Bloch in 1929. Bloch, a French Jew and aviation innovator who survived the Nazis and Buchenwald, changed his name to Dassault following the war. The company's name changed accordingly to Société d'Avions Marcel Dassault, giving us Dassault. Dassault has produced most of France's fighter jets. A large part of Dassault came to be owned by Aerospatiale in 1998, which later merged with Airbus, another leading European aviation company. Let's have a look at the top 10 best French fighter jets in service and retired. Number 10. Dassault Super Mystère. This fighter jet was produced from 1951 to 1957. The first Super Mystères were derived from the Avions. A key design change for the Super Mystère was the introduction of swept wings. Several prototypes were produced, with the Super Mystère going through a lengthy production cycle overall. The craft can, thus, be seen as a key transition from the earlier Avions to the next generation of French fighter jets. That next generation would be embodied in its successor. Where the Super Mystère did not see sail abroad, countries such as Israel would buy its successor. Number 9. Dassault Breguet Super Étendard. This is another example of a fighter jet introduced to the French armed forces in the 1970s with a service record that extends far after that, though it was officially retired in 2016. In between that time, the French military has repeatedly used it in engagements in the Middle East. For example, Super Étendards were used to respond to a terrorist attack in Beirut in 1983. Super Étendards were also used as regular parts of the Allied forces taking part in military operations in Afghanistan during the Libyan Civil War. Number 8. Dassault Ouragan. First produced way back in 1954, the Ouragan was a combination fighter-bomber. Its service in the French Air Force was short-lived, and it was largely replaced by the end of the decade. That does not mean that it did not have an extensive service history elsewhere, however. Nearly 600 were produced, with the El Salvadorian, Israeli, and Indian militaries all purchasing the aircraft. Israel in particular made great use of the Dassault Ouragan. The Israeli Air Force's effective responses were critical factors in Israel's victories in the Six-Day and Yom Kippur Wars, with the Dassault Ouragan active in each engagement. Number 7. Dassault Étendard 4. This is a historic fighter jet, having been retired by the French military in 2000. That said, it has plenty of history to its name, being produced in the 1950s and being the first French-built jet to be aircraft carrier compatible. The Étendard 4 was designed to be a naval strike aircraft. In addition, it was capable of being used as a reconnaissance plane. The Étendard 4 was also capable of reaching transonic speeds. It was gradually phased out in favor of its eventual successor, the Étendard 4. Nevertheless, for decades it was a fixture on the decks of Clemenceau-class aircraft carriers across the French Navy. Number 6. Dassault Dornier Alpha Jet. This fighter jet is a joint project, the product of both Dassault as well as Dornier, a German aeronautic company. It is designed as a training craft as well as a light fighter jet. It was produced in the mid-70s, with 480 total being made. In addition to the French Air Force, the Alpha Jet has seen service in the French, Portuguese, Thai, Belgian, and Cameroonian Air Forces. The vast majority of this craft's service life has been as a training jet. It has also served as the fighter jet of choice for the Patrouille de France, the French Air Force's aerobatic team. Number 5. Dassault Mirage G. Yet another entry in the Dassault Mirage line. The Mirage G was a prototype. Only 3 were ever produced. It was first flown in 1967, and in the 1970s the program was cancelled. It was nevertheless a valuable step in furthering the Dassault Mirage program, as exemplified by the orders shown above. Another example can be seen in the Mirage F2, which took design cues from the Mirage G. The Mirage G also lives on in the aerospace museums across France. Number 4. Dassault Mirage F1. This entry into Dassault's Mirage line was an outgrowth of the Mirage 3 line and a predecessor to the Mirage 2000 line, and is largely a retired historical unit now, although they have not been entirely replaced. The Mirage F1 was designed as an interceptor fighter jet to be used to take on other jets. It built heavily on the design of the Mirage 3, though its wings deviate from that. Mirage F1s were yet another French aircraft that were used in coalition opposition to Saddam Hussein in Kuwait. Iraq had actually purchased Mirage F1s prior to that, and used them during the Iran-Iraq War. Number 3. Dassault Mirage 2000N and 2000D. As the name would imply, these are two related variants of the Dassault Mirage 2000. The Mirage 2000N is dedicated to nuclear strikes, while the Mirage 2000D is a variant designed for conventional engagements. 161 total units were manufactured, with 75 Mirage 2000N and 86 Mirage 2000D produced. While the Mirage 2000N was retired in 2018, the Mirage 2000D remains an active part of the French Air Force. Mirage 2000N were involved in NATO and UN operations during the Yugoslav wars, with one being shot down by Bosnian Serb separatists on August 30, 1995. They have also been used in anti-ISIS strikes. Number 2. Dassault Mirage 2000. The Mirage series has long been one of Dassault's trademark fighters. This is one of the fastest fighters jets in the world. Several jets have been produced in the Mirage line, including this variant, which was first produced in the 1970s and has remained part of the French Air Force ever since. The aircraft is produced in both single and two-seat variants. Its SNCMA M53 engines produce 84 kilonewtons worth of thrust. France is a nuclear weapons state, and the Dassault Mirage 2000 is capable of carrying out nuclear strikes. During France's participation as part of the coalition against Saddam Hussein in the Gulf War, Mirage 2000s were used alongside U.S. aircraft. They were also involved in joint strikes in Syria alongside the US and UK in 2018. Number 1. Dassault Rafale. The French Air Force and Navy both lay claim to the services of this fighter jet, which is one of the most versatile in the French military. It boasts a pair of SNCMA M88 engines, each of which can provide 50 kilonewtons of dry thrust. France withdrew from NATO in 1966. When it rejoined in 2009, its Dassault Rafale took part in operations on U.S. aircraft carriers, with some landing on the USS Harry S. Truman. Nearly 200 Rafales have been built by Dassault. In addition to the French Air Force, they have been a fixture in the Indian, Egyptian, and Qatari Air Forces, and have been used in military action in Afghanistan and Libya. Thanks for watching. Please do like and comment. Subscribe No 10 for more 10s.